The stars were quiet, but inside the bridge of HFS Vengeance, tension burned like fire. The alien ships had appeared just beyond the asteroid belt, silent and cold. No lights, no signals, no response. They hung there like shadows, watching, waiting. Admiral Reyes stood at the center of the command deck, eyes locked on the main screen. Every officer around him was frozen, waiting for his order. He gave it in a calm, strong voice. Battle stations. Ready all weapons. Across the human fleet, alarms rang. Pilots ran to their ships. Defense crews manned the railguns and missile bays. The peaceful mission to investigate Vega 7 had turned into a war zone in seconds. No one had expected to meet the enemy so soon, and no one had expected them to be so silent. Not a single word had been spoken since their arrival. It was as if the Koru, the attackers, didn't believe humans deserved communication. Layla sat at her console, her hands flying across the screen. She had linked the ship's sensors directly to the alien energy patterns they had picked up from the ruins of Vega 7. She was trying to find a weak spot in the enemy's design, something that could give Earth's fleet a fighting chance. So far, the ships looked heavily armored, but they had one visible design flaw: a cluster of red glowing panels on their undersides, possibly reactors or heat vents. She marked them on the tactical map. Suddenly, one of the alien ships powered up. Lights flickered across its surface, and then a beam of pure white energy shot across the void, narrowly missing the lead human cruiser. A second beam followed, striking one of Earth's frigates. It exploded instantly, scattering debris in space. Reyes clenched his jaw. All ships returned fire. The silence was broken. Earth's fleet responded with fury. Missiles flew, railguns fired, and lasers burned through the dark. The black space between the two forces became a deadly battlefield. Ships moved like dancers, dodging blasts and weaving through debris. The human fleet was smaller, but faster and more flexible. The alien ships were powerful but slow to turn. Inside HFS Vengeance, Reyes directed the attack. He ordered 2 cruisers to flank the enemy, while smaller fighters drew their attention. It was a dangerous game, using lives as bait, but it worked. When the enemy ships turned to fire at the fighters, Reyes shouted, "Now, hit those heat vents." Layla had already locked onto them. She pressed the command, and 3 Vengeance missiles screamed through space, slamming directly into the red panels. The alien ship shook, lost power, and began to drift. A moment later, it exploded in silence. Cheers echoed across the bridge. 1 down. But there were more. Another enemy ship turned and fired, hitting one of Earth's corvettes. The hull cracked open. Dozens of lives were lost in seconds. There was no time to mourn. The rest of the fleet pressed on. Each side traded blow for blow. Flames and metal filled the void. Fighters zipped between larger vessels, firing short bursts before retreating. Many never made it back. In the middle of the chaos, Layla noticed something strange. One of the alien ships wasn't firing. It was just observing. She focused her sensors on it. Unlike the others, it had no visible weapons. It was smaller, sleeker. She ran a scan. There was data transmission coming from it. It wasn't just a warship. It was a command ship, relaying orders to the others. She quickly called out, "Admiral, that ship, Sector 7, it's not fighting. It's giving commands." Reyes turned to his tactical officer. "Can we reach it?" "Not directly. It's behind the main line." Reyes thought for a second. "Then we go through the line." He ordered the fleet to split into 2. One half kept the alien warships busy, drawing fire and taking hits. The second half, led by Vengeance, made a straight charge toward the command ship. It was a suicide run, but it had to be done. If they could take out the mind behind the enemy, the body might fall apart. Vengeance led the charge, taking fire on its shields. The ship shook under the pressure, lights flickering, metal groaning. Layla held onto her console as sparks flew. But they didn't stop. They pushed forward. Finally, they broke through. The command ship was now visible. Sleek, dark, and deadly. But it didn't move. It didn't defend itself. As if it believed humans were too weak to reach it, Reyes saw his chance. Lock missiles. All forward batteries fire. 6 missiles launched. 2 were destroyed mid-flight by defense drones. 4 hit. The explosion was massive, and for the first time, the alien fleet reacted with panic. Their formations broke. Some ships turned wildly. Others stopped firing altogether. Reyes smiled. They're not as calm as they look. But the battle wasn't over. 2 alien ships pushed through Earth's line, heading straight for vengeance. One of them fired a plasma beam, hitting the lower decks. Fires broke out. The ship lost one of its engines. The hull shook. Inside, alarms blared. Reyes barked orders to damage control. Layla pulled herself up, coughing through smoke. One of the enemy ships came in for a final strike. It was now or never. Layla shouted over the noise, "We can reroute emergency power to the railgun. 1 shot." Reyes nodded. "Do it." Layla worked fast. The railgun wasn't designed to fire in that condition, but she knew how to override the safety. The power built up, too much, too fast. The gun fired. The shot tore through space, hitting the enemy ship straight through its core. It broke apart in seconds. The second alien ship turned, retreating. The rest of the alien fleet followed. Just like that, the battle was over. The battlefield was filled with broken ships, burning wrecks, and silence once again. Earth had won, but at a great cost. 3 ships were lost, hundreds of lives gone, but they had struck the enemy. They had shown the galaxy that humans would not die quietly. Inside the damaged bridge, Reyes sat in his chair, tired but proud. Layla sat beside him, her face covered in dust and sweat. She looked out the window at the stars. "They didn't expect us to fight," she whispered. "No," Reyes replied. "But now they know." Far away, in a dark part of the galaxy, the Koru watched the battle recordings. Their commander, a tall figure with pale skin and glowing eyes, stood in silence. For the first time in centuries, they had lost a battle. Not to a great empire, not to an ancient enemy, but to humans. He turned to his second-in-command and spoke in a cold, sharp voice. "Prepare the full fleet." The war was just beginning. The images of Vega 7 burning stayed in the minds of every human on Earth. It played over and over again across news channels, inside space stations, and even in schools. The silence before the attack. Then fire, then nothing. People felt shocked, scared, and angry. A peaceful colony had been wiped out. No one understood why. No warning, no contact, no reason. But one thing was now very clear. Earth was under threat. Inside the United Nations Space Defense Command, leaders from every nation gathered. The room was full of tension and confusion. Some believed this was a one-time event. Others knew better. Admiral Elias Reyes stood quietly at the edge, listening, watching. When his turn came, he stepped forward and spoke. "This wasn't a mistake," Reyes said. "It was a message. And it's not the last one." Layla sat in the back, her hand still bandaged from the escape pod. She had been the only survivor from Vega 7. Now she had become the face of the tragedy. Reporters followed her everywhere, but she didn't care about fame. She had lost everything. Her home, her family, her life. All she wanted now was justice. Earth's council voted. After hours of debate, they approved limited military action. Not war, yet, but a warning to the unknown enemy that humanity would not be destroyed so easily. The first fleet was activated. Old warships were taken out of storage. Engineers worked day and night to upgrade weapons and shields. Pilots trained. Soldiers prepared. The enemy had started the fire. Now Earth would respond. Admiral Reyes was placed in full command of the mission. The fleet would leave Earth's orbit in 5 days, travel to the Vega system, and search for the enemy. If they found anything, They had permission to engage. Rise chose HFS Vengeance as his flagship, a large, powerful cruiser built for deep space combat. It had not been used in years, but it was strong and reliable. Layla requested to join the mission. "I know the Vega system better than anyone," she said to Reyes, "and I know what those ships look like." He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "You're in. But this isn't revenge. It's duty." The day of launch arrived. The fleet rose slowly from Earth's surface, engines glowing. Families waved from the ground. Soldiers inside the ships stared at pictures of their loved ones. Everyone knew this could be the last time they saw home. The ships moved into position, then jumped into hyperspace, leaving Earth behind. Inside Vengeance, the atmosphere was intense but calm. Everyone had a job. Layla worked with the systems team, scanning space for strange signals, anything that might match the energy signature from the attack on Vega 7. She barely slept. Her nightmares were filled with fire and screams. After 2 days of travel, the fleet reached the edge of Vega space. The planet was gone, turned to ash. The scanners picked up pieces of destroyed buildings, metal, bones. It was worse than anyone expected. No life signs, no signals, nothing. Reyes stood on the bridge, watching the screen. "This is a graveyard," he said quietly. "But someone did this, and they're still out there." As the fleet scanned the area, they picked up something strange. Not a ship, but a trail. An energy signal moving slowly away from the planet, deeper into the asteroid belt. Layla studied it and recognized it. This matches the pattern from Vega 7. They were here. Recently. Reyes didn't wait. "Plot a course. We follow." The fleet moved into the asteroid belt carefully. The area was dangerous, full of drifting rocks and magnetic fields. The ships had to move slowly, using small engines. Fighters flew ahead, scanning the path. Everyone was on edge. And then it happened. A signal. Faint. Nearby. The enemy was here. The alien ship appeared suddenly between 2 large asteroids. It was black, sharp, and had no lights. It didn't look like anything humans had seen before. No windows. No logos. No signs of life. Just cold metal. Reyes opened a channel. "This is the United Nations fleet. Identify yourself." No response. Again. "We are prepared to defend ourselves. Stand down and respond." Still silence. Then the ship powered up. A strange hum filled the speakers. Layla's console flashed. "They're charging weapons." Reyes shouted. "Shields up. All ships, defensive positions." The enemy ship fired a beam of blue light. It struck the lead human cruiser, disabling its engines. No explosion, but it drifted away, powerless. The alien ship began to move forward. Reyes gave the order. "Fire." Missiles launched. Lasers burned across space. The enemy ship twisted, dodged, and returned fire. It was fast, faster than any human ship, but not invincible. A missile hit its side, damaging the hull. Sparks flew. The battle had begun. Layla worked the sensors, scanning the alien ship. Their power comes from a central core, low in the belly of the ship. "If we hit that, we can stop it." Reyes nodded. "Relay to all ships. Target the underside." Human ships swarmed the alien cruiser. Fighters dived close, dodging lasers. One by one, they attacked the weak point. The alien ship fought back hard. 2 fighters were destroyed. A corvette was damaged. But then, a missile hit the core. A bright flash. The alien ship stopped. Dead. Cheers filled the bridge. But they didn't last. More signals. Layla shouted, "We've got more incoming." 5. No, 6 ships. Reyes clenched his fists. They were waiting for us. The new enemy ships arrived fast. Bigger. Stronger. Each one different in shape, but with the same dark metal and red glowing cores. This wasn't just an ambush. This was a trap. Reyes didn't hesitate. Form up. Full fleet formation. Let's give them something to remember. The sky lit up. Lasers, missiles, debris. Fighters danced between ships. One human ship exploded. Another crashed into an asteroid. But the enemy also took damage. Their designs were powerful but not perfect. Human tactics, speed, and teamwork gave them an edge. Layla's hands moved fast. I found a pattern. They use a command ship to direct the others. If we take it out, they lose coordination. Reyes nodded again. Mark it. All ships, focus fire on the command ship. A dozen missiles flew. Enemy ships tried to block them. Fighters broke through. The command ship fired wildly, but missed. Then one missile struck its engine. Then another. The final explosion was massive. The enemy formation broke. Confused. Disorganized. Reyes stood tall. Now's our chance. Push forward. Earth's fleet advanced with full power. The remaining enemy ships tried to escape. 2 were destroyed in retreat. The others vanished into the void. The battle was won, but not the war. Smoke filled the ship. Crew members treated the wounded. Layla sat in silence, staring at the screen. She had seen fire again, but this time, Earth had answered back. They weren't helpless. They weren't prey. They were fighters. Reyes looked out the window at the stars. They tested us. Now they've seen what we are. Layla whispered, now they know. But far away, deep in the black parts of space, the true enemy watched. This had only been a scout fleet. A test. The real Armada, the true fire, was still waiting. Earth had responded. Now, the enemy would bring war. The blackness of space had never felt this alive before. Where once there was silence and stars, now there were ships, weapons, fire, and death. Earth's first fleet had found the enemy, or rather, the enemy had allowed itself to be found. And now, in the dark fields near the Vega asteroid belt, war had begun. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge of the HFS Vengeance, his eyes fixed on the growing battlefield ahead. Red lights blinked all around him, and the sound of alarms echoed in the background. His voice was calm, steady, and strong as always. All ships, Battle Formation Alpha, maintain shield power. Watch each other's flanks. We do this together. Across the fleet, human ships moved like one body. Cruisers, frigates, and fighters took their positions, forming a wall between Earth's people and the unknown enemy. The alien ships were already there, dark, sharp, cold in design, and completely silent. They didn't send warnings or speak. They just powered their weapons. Layla sat at her station on the Vengeance, her fingers flying across the touchscreen. She was no longer the scared survivor from Vega 7. She was now the fleet's most important systems analyst, and she had something the others didn't. She had seen these enemies up close. She remembered the shapes of their ships, the way they moved, the strange energy signature that followed them. There, she said aloud. They're using some kind of low-frequency code to stay in sync. It's not radio. It's something else. Maybe quantum-linked communication. But if we disrupt it, Reyes didn't need a full explanation. Can you jam it? Layla shook her head. No, but I can echo it back to them. Confuse their signal. Make them think their own ships are moving differently. Reyes gave her a nod. Do it. Suddenly, the first alien ship moved. A beam of sharp white energy burst from its front, slicing through space like a knife. It didn't hit anything, but it was a warning, a test shot. Then came the second. This one struck a human cruiser on the far left. Its shields lit up for a moment, then cracked. The ship rocked hard, and one of its engines exploded. No one on the bridge of the Vengeance said a word. They just watched. Return fire, Reyes ordered. A wave of missiles, laser beams, and kinetic rounds launched from the fleet. The black sky became a painting of red, blue, and yellow fire. Explosions flashed across the screen. Fighters shot forward in formation, diving toward the enemy line like birds of war. The aliens didn't dodge. They responded with deadly calm. One by one, their ships turned, their weapons glowing. They fired beams of intense plasma that pierced through several fighters. One ship exploded instantly. Another spiraled into an asteroid. But the human fleet kept going. Layla's signal trick started to work. One of the alien ships drifted out of position, reacting to false movement from its neighbor. The pattern broke. The coordination was weaker now. "Focus on that one," Rais shouted. "Section 4, take it down." 3 ships turned their fire on the off-position enemy. It tried to dodge, but the confusion was too great. A missile hit the side, followed by a railgun round straight into its red glowing vent. The ship cracked, twisted, and broke apart in a silent, fireless explosion. Cheers broke out on the bridge, but only for a second. More enemy ships joined the fight. They had been hiding behind asteroids, waiting. Bigger than the first wave. Heavily armed. One of them launched a sphere of energy toward the fleet. It moved slowly, too slowly. "What is that?" Layla asked, alarmed. "It's not a weapon," Ray said. "It's a decoy." Suddenly, from behind the energy sphere, another enemy ship charged forward and rammed into a human corvette, tearing through it like paper. Both ships exploded together. The bridge shook. Rais gritted his teeth. "We hold the line," he said firmly. "They want to crush us with fear. Not today." A group of enemy fighters tried to flank the Vengeance, slipping through the side. Layla saw them on her sensors. "They're coming around, trying to hit our weak side." "Bring up starboard turrets," Rais ordered. "Spin the ship. Give them the heat." The Vengeance turned, and its side cannons fired a wave of plasma bolts. 3 enemy fighters were hit instantly, bursting into fragments. Another tried to escape, but a nearby human destroyer clipped its wing. The alien ship spun off into space. The Vengeance took hits too. A glancing beam carved a line across its outer hull. Sparks flew. Warning lights blinked. But still, the flagship kept going. Layla spotted something unusual. One of the alien ships wasn't firing. It was staying back, just observing. "There's the command ship," she said, pointing. "It's controlling the others. That's why they're so organized. If we take it out." Rais didn't hesitate. "New target. All available ships. Focus fire on the command ship." Fighters flew in a straight line, dodging lasers and asteroid fragments. 2 human cruisers locked onto the enemy command ship and fired everything they had. The alien ship reacted quickly, turning and launching drones as shields formed around it. But Layla had a plan. "They're using an energy field to deflect our weapons, but it's tuned to widespread attacks. If we narrow the beams, focus all the power into one single shot, we can punch through." Rais looked at his weapons officer. "Can we do it?" "We'll have to drain half the systems for one blast," the officer replied. "But yeah, we can. Do it." Inside the Vengeance, power was rerouted. Lights dimmed. Engines slowed. All systems went quiet except weapons. The railgun charged with a deep hum. The shot had to be perfect. "Target locked," the officer said. "Fire." A single railgun round flew across the battlefield, faster than anything the eye could follow. It hit the command ship dead center. For a second, nothing happened. Then the enemy ship split in half and erupted in a wave of glowing red fire. Instantly, the alien fleet lost formation. Some ships powered down. Others fired in random directions. A few turned and ran. The human fleet didn't wait. "Press the attack," Rais shouted. In the next few minutes, 3 more enemy ships were destroyed. 2 escaped into the darkness. 1 crashed into an asteroid trying to flee. And just like that, it was over. The void was quiet again. On the bridge of the Vengeance, the crew sat in silence. Not because they were unsure, but because they understood. This wasn't victory. This was just a message. Layla leaned back in her seat, breathing hard. We won. Reyes stared at the screen. No, we survived. Back on Earth, the fleet's success brought pride, but also fear. If this was only the first wave, what was coming next? And far away, in a dark system unknown to human maps, the Koru watched from their command world. Their leader stood on a metal platform, staring at a giant screen showing the battle. They responded faster than expected, he said calmly. His advisor looked nervous. Should we change the plan? The leader shook his head slowly. No, now we show them our real strength. The test is over. The storm begins. The silence after the battle seemed to stretch on forever. The human fleet hovered in the cold vacuum of space, debris from the fight drifting in all directions. Only the hum of the Vengeance's engines and the occasional crackle from comms filled the stillness. Reyes stood on the bridge, watching the stars outside. His expression was unreadable. The battle had been won, but he knew it was far from over. Admiral, incoming signal, a comm officer called from his station. Reyes turned, his face hardening. From whom? It's a message from Earth Command, sir. He nodded. Put it through. The screen flickered to life, and the face of General Holt appeared. His grim expression told Reyes everything. We've got a problem. Admiral, they've already started moving. We can see several massive fleets gathering. More than anything we've faced so far. It's not just a few ships. They're sending everything they've got. Reyes gritted his teeth. How many? At least 12 fleets, possibly more. Estimated time to arrival, 10 days. Reyes's hands clenched into fists. The alien forces hadn't just attacked Earth's colonies. They had begun a full-scale assault. The Vega system was just the beginning. Earth was about to face the largest war it had ever seen. We need reinforcements, Reyes said, voice tight with determination. They're coming, Holt replied. But it won't be enough. You'll have to hold your ground. For as long as you can. Reyes turned to his crew, his mind racing. 12 fleets. Earth had no idea what they were up against. The battle at Vega had shown that humanity could stand their ground. But this was something else entirely. He couldn't even begin to fathom what kind of force the enemy was gathering. Admiral, Layla said, her voice breaking the silence. I've been analyzing their movements. They're not acting like a typical invading force. They're preparing for something. Reyes turned to her. What do you mean? Layla shook her head. I don't know yet, but if we track their ships, they're clustering. They're preparing to strike. And it won't be just with weapons. Reyes's heart sank. What did that mean? He was about to ask her when the alarms went off. A red light flashed on the bridge. Report. Reyes barked. A tactical officer quickly scanned the readings. Admiral, we're picking up something massive. It's coming fast. The officer's voice faltered as the readings came in. It's bigger than any ship we've seen before. Reyes's heart skipped a beat. What kind of ship? Admiral, the officer continued, voice trembling. It's not a ship. It's an entire fleet. A massive, incomprehensible fleet. It's heading directly toward us. The screen displayed the incoming fleet, a dark mass of ships, shaped like nothing anyone had ever seen before. They were enormous, dwarfing anything humanity had in their arsenal. There were no identifying markings, no designations, just hundreds of massive dark structures moving in perfect harmony, like a tidal wave headed for a beach. Reyes stood frozen for a moment, the weight of the situation settling in. Then he snapped into action. All ships, prepare for battle. No retreat. We hold the line. The fleet began to move into formation. The Vengeance powered forward, its weapons coming online, shields at maximum. Reyes watched the display of incoming ships, alien ships, monstrous and terrifying in their design. The enemy had been testing Earth, waiting for the right moment. And now, it seemed, that moment had come. "Layla, what can we expect from them?" Rise asked, his voice steady. Layla was already at her station, her eyes locked on the data stream. "They got advanced weaponry. The kind we've never seen before. Energy shields that are at least 5 times more powerful than ours. The weapons can pierce anything we've got. If we don't hit them hard and fast, we're done." Reyes's hands tightened around the edge of his chair. "Then we hit them hard." Across the fleet, human ships prepared themselves. Fighters launched into the void, streaking toward the incoming enemy fleet. The battle was about to begin. The alien ships fired first. Beams of white-hot energy blasted across space, slamming into the human fleet. The Vengeance rocked under the first impact. The shields flared, flickering before stabilizing. A warning light blared on the bridge. "Shields at 70%, the officer reported. Reyes gritted his teeth. They had to hold. "We can't outrun them," Layla said, her voice rising with panic. "Their ships are faster, stronger. We have to take them out from the inside." "Agreed," Reyes said, eyes narrowing. "All ships, concentrate fire on their flanks. We've got one chance." The battle erupted in full force. Missiles flew, lasers cut through space, and explosions rocked both sides. Human ships fell in flames, their remains scattering like dust across the stars. But the alien fleet didn't hesitate. They fought as though they had seen this before, as though they had faced wars like this hundreds of times. "We're not winning," Layla said, watching the screens. "We need more time." "We're not going to get it," Reyes replied. "But we're going to make them regret this." The Vengeance launched a volley of missiles at the enemy's command ship. For a moment, everything seemed to slow. Then, with a burst of light, the missiles struck the target, tearing through the alien vessel's defenses. The explosion was massive, and for a split second, the battle stopped. A wave of relief washed over the crew of the Vengeance, but it didn't last long. "There's more," Layla warned, eyes wide. A new wave of enemy ships dropped out of hyperspace, swarming like a plague of locusts. It was a coordinated attack. They knew exactly how to overwhelm humanity's defenses. Earth's fleet was now fighting for survival. A full-on war was inevitable. Reyes barked orders, his voice carrying above the chaos. "Focus on the new arrivals. We hold this line. We fight for every inch of space." Human ships darted and dodged, firing everything they had. But the sheer number of enemies, how many ships were out there? How many more would come? The human fleet's advantage in speed and tactics was quickly fading. The sky seemed to be on fire as beams of light pierced the void. Entire sections of Earth's ships were torn apart, the debris floating in space, making it harder to maneuver. Reyes's heart pounded as he watched more of his fleet fall. But still, they didn't retreat. The battle was too important. "We can't hold them forever," Layla said, looking exhausted but determined. "No," Reyes replied, his eyes locking onto the enemy ships. "But we'll give them a fight they'll never forget." The fleet was losing, but the fight wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Earth was about to learn what war really meant. It wasn't just about strategy or firepower. It was about heart. And humanity's heart was just beginning to show. The Vengeance shuddered under another hit, sending a wave of panic through the bridge. Sparks flew, and the lights flickered. Reyes gripped the arm of his chair as the ship's systems struggled to stay online. Earth's fleet was fighting for survival, but the odds were stacked against them. "We're losing power, Admiral," a technician shouted, her voice barely audible over the alarms blaring in the background. Reyes didn't take his eyes off the screen. The alien fleet, vast and overwhelming, was tearing through the human ships like a storm cutting through paper. Yet the humans fought on, knowing that their survival depended on holding this line. It wasn't just a battle for victory anymore. It was a fight for their very existence. "We've got a hole in the aft shield," the tactical officer called out. "We're vulnerable." Reyes glanced over at Layla, who was working frantically at her station. She looked up, her face pale but determined. I'm rerouting auxiliary power, but it won't last long. We need more time. The clock was ticking. The Vengeance was down to half its original strength. Other ships in the fleet were falling fast, and Earth Command was still days away from reinforcing them. The alien forces, with their seemingly endless numbers, had already crushed most of the human ships. Only a few remained, scattered and desperate. How much longer until we're out of ammunition? Reyes asked, his voice firm, though the weight of the situation pressed heavily on him. Maybe an hour, the weapons officer replied grimly. Reyes turned back to the screen. More alien ships were closing in. The fleet's remaining ships were scattered, trying to regroup and hold a defense. But it wasn't enough. The enemy was methodical, relentless. Every move they made seemed calculated to ensure the human fleet's destruction. This is it, Reyes muttered, his jaw tight. This is our last chance. He turned to Layla. Can we still hit them with the quantum jammer? She hesitated. It's a long shot, but if I focus the energy just right, we could create a disruption in their communication. It might give us a few moments where their fleet can't coordinate. Reyes didn't need more convincing. Do it. We buy ourselves some time. Layla worked quickly, her hands flying across the controls. Reyes turned his attention back to the fleet's status. There was no room for error now. The humans would have to strike with everything they had, with no backup. No reinforcements, no more chances. Captain, the comms officer called out, I'm picking up a strange signal, coming from the enemy command ship. It's different from anything we've seen before. Reyes froze. He knew this moment would come. He had felt it in his gut from the start. The enemy was not just here to conquer. They were testing something. What is it? Reyes asked, his voice low. It's a transmission, the comms officer said, but it's encrypted and I can't break it. Reyes's instincts screamed. This was it. The aliens were preparing to unleash something new, something terrifying. And they were sending the signal to their entire fleet. We need to stop that transmission, Reyes said. Layla, can you block it? She didn't look up from her station, her fingers still flying across the keys. I'm working on it, Admiral. Just a few more seconds. A violent shudder ran through the Vengeance. The enemy was close. Too close. Another series of blasts rocked the ship, and the bridge lights dimmed, flickering in and out. Prepare for evasive maneuvers, Reyes ordered, his heart pounding. All remaining ships, fall back into formation. Now, the human fleet shifted, regrouping in the shadow of an asteroid field. But as they did, a terrible sight appeared on the screens. The alien command ship, its massive hull glowing with energy, began to charge. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a force of nature. The ship's power core surged, sending out a wave of energy that engulfed the area. The Vengeance and its fleet were caught in the blast radius. The shockwave tore through space, obliterating ships and leaving them as debris in the void. Earth's fleet was down to a handful of ships now, barely holding on. Layla's voice broke through the chaos. Admiral, the jammer's online. We've disrupted their communication systems. Reyes quickly glanced at the screen. The enemy fleet began to falter. Ships collided, some of them breaking formation and firing wildly. But it wasn't enough. The human fleet had no time to capitalize on this. The alien ships were too powerful, too well armed. But in that moment, Reyes made a decision. All ships, prepare for a final strike. This is the moment. If we go down fighting. The remaining human ships, battered and broken, surged forward, launching everything they had at the nearest enemy ships. Missiles, lasers, and energy blasts filled the void. The human fleet was no longer a force of coordination. They were a force of desperation. The Vengeance, despite its failing systems, pushed forward. Reyes's hands gripped the console, every muscle in his body tense. The ship's weapons fired with everything left, hitting the closest alien ships with a final furious barrage. One alien ship exploded, then another. The third one was crippled, its weapons silenced. It wasn't a victory. There was no time to celebrate. But it was a symbol of humanity's will to survive. The enemy had underestimated Earth, and now they would learn. But just as it seemed they might turn the tide, the alien fleet's final weapon came online. A massive energy beam, brighter than anything the humans had ever seen, erupted from the command ship's core. It was aimed directly at Earth's remaining fleet. "We can't dodge that," the tactical officer yelled, panic creeping into his voice. Reyes looked at the screen one last time. The Vengeance was in the perfect line of fire. He had one final choice. "Layla," he said, his voice calm despite the fear. "Activate the self-destruct sequence." Her eyes went wide. "Admiral, no. We end it here. We take them down with us." "Admiral, please," she began, but Reyes turned to face her, his expression firm. "Do it." Layla hesitated only for a moment before inputting the command. The self-destruct countdown began. "Fire everything we've got," Reyes ordered. The last salvo of missiles and energy blasts shot from the Vengeance, streaking across the dark sky. The beam from the alien command ship fired just as the Vengeance's self-destruct triggered. A massive explosion rocked the space around them, a fiery burst of light that consumed everything.